There are some cases where cameras captured almost everything, yet still could not give police the answers they needed. Some killers were recorded just before, during, and even after committing their crimes. And yet to this day, their identities remain a mystery. And in this video, we're going to look at 3 murder cases tied together by one terrifying detail: everything was caught on camera. But the truth behind what happened remains buried in darkness. These are 3 of the most haunting surveillance murders ever committed in the United States. Security cameras captured the killer in this case. Several minutes before he struck, he wandered through the dark hallways of a church wearing tactical gear that looked like police equipment, holding what appeared to be a tactical hammer in his hand. But the most disturbing part is this. Even though that footage has been broadcast across America for years to this day, no one knows who that person really is. The victim in this case was Terry "Missy" Bevers, a well-known fitness instructor in Midlothian, Texas, and the mother of 3 children. To the people who knew her, Missy was more than just an instructor. She was someone who constantly motivated others. The kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly make the atmosphere feel lighter. People loved her for her energy, her kindness, and the way she always tried to help others become better. But in the early morning hours of April 18th, 2016, Missy's life ended in a brutal way that still haunts America to this day. That morning, Missy planned to host her Camp Gladiator class at Creekside Church of Christ, just as she often did. Heavy rain had been falling since the night before, but Missy still informed her students that the class would continue as scheduled. To her, it was simply another ordinary morning at work. But what Missy had no idea about was that while she was preparing to start her day, someone was already inside the church. According to surveillance footage, sometime before around 3:50 a.m., an unidentified suspect broke into the building. The person was dressed head to toe in tactical gear, making it nearly impossible to see any identifying features. In his hand was an object that appeared to be a hammer or mallet. But what immediately caught investigators' attention was not just the break-in itself. It was the way he behaved afterward. Because instead of quickly stealing something and leaving like an ordinary burglar, the suspect began slowly walking through the dark hallways. He opened every door, looked into every room, smashed glass panels, searched through offices, examined every corner as if he were looking for something. Or worse, as if he were waiting for someone to arrive. And that's when this case begins to feel truly disturbing. The entire footage does not feel like a random burglary. It feels more like a predator slowly moving through a place where he knows his target is about to appear. Every step is slow, calm, controlled. There is no panic, no urgency. And because of that, many people believe he was never there to steal anything at all. Sometime after 4 a.m., Missy arrived at the church as usual to set up for her class. Not long after she walked inside, something happened. No one knows exactly what took place in the minutes that followed. No camera captured the exact moment the attack began. But what everyone does know is that less than an hour later, it was over. Shortly after 5 a.m., one of Missy's students arrived for the workout and discovered her unconscious inside the church. Police and emergency responders rushed to the scene, but it was already too late. Missy was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities confirmed she had suffered severe injuries to her head and chest. The murder weapon was believed to be consistent with the object seen in the suspect's hand in the earlier footage. But this is the part that turned the case into one of the most infamous mystery murders in America. The killer was almost entirely captured on camera before the murder even happened. Police released the footage to the public, hoping someone would recognize the suspect. And millions of people did watch that video. It It spread across the country almost immediately. It appeared on news broadcasts. It appeared online. It appeared in nearly every major true crime community in America. Viewers analyzed every frame. Experts broke down every movement. Many focused specifically on the killer's unusual limp, believing it could be the clue that finally solved the case. But despite all of that, no one has ever identified him. No one recognized the gear. No one recognized the walk. No one provided enough information to lead to an arrest. And as more years passed, the mystery only became deeper. More than 8 years have passed since that night. There's been no confession, no arrest, no closure for the victim's family. The person seen in that footage has never been identified. And the murder of Missy Bevers remains one of the most haunting, unsolved surveillance killings in modern true crime history. And if you thought a killer being caught on camera before striking was disturbing enough, the next case is even worse. Because this time the killer was not just recorded on camera. He actually stood there and spoke to the victim before murdering her right outside her own home. The camera captured the moment a woman stood speaking to her killer for a few seconds, just before he shot her 4 times in front of her house. What makes this case even more chilling is that after fleeing the scene, the shooter turned his car around and came back, almost as if he wanted to make sure she was truly dead. And to this day, despite the entire attack being caught on camera, no one knows who the killer is. The victim in this case was Elizabeth Liz Barraza, a 29-year-old woman living in Texas, described by nearly everyone who knew her in the same way, kind, warm, and always thinking of others before herself. She was not the type of person who caused drama. She had no history of major conflict, no chaotic relationships. To the people around her, Liz was simply a good person living a peaceful life with her husband. At the time, Liz and her husband Sergio Barraza were preparing to celebrate their 5th wedding anniversary. The two had planned their dream trip to Harry Potter World in Orlando. And to save a little extra money for the vacation, they decided to hold a garage sale at their home on the morning of January 25th, 2019. It should have been a completely ordinary morning. A morning where Liz woke up early, carried a few items outside, and continued on with her day like normal. But within minutes, everything changed forever. At around 6:48 that morning, Sergio left for work as usual. Just a few minutes after he drove away, Liz began setting up items outside for the garage sale. But then, at approximately 6:52 a.m., a neighbor's surveillance camera captured a dark-colored Nissan Frontier pulling up and stopping directly in front of the Barraza home. Someone stepped out of the vehicle. The person appeared to have long hair, or may have been wearing a wig. They were dressed in dark, loose-fitting clothing almost resembling a long robe. But what stood out immediately was that the person did not stop to look around, did not hesitate, did not pause. They walked straight toward Liz, as if they knew exactly why they were there. Ring camera footage captured the moment Liz turned to look at the stranger approaching her. The two stood and spoke for a few brief seconds. No one knows exactly what was said during that moment. But this is what makes the case especially haunting, because Liz did not react like someone who felt threatened. She did not run. She did not step back. She did not scream. She did not appear panicked. In that moment, she seemed to have no idea that the person standing in front of her was about to kill her. And then, just seconds later, the killer pulled out a gun. 4 shots rang out in front of her home. Liz collapsed onto the driveway just steps from her front door. The shooter immediately turned, ran back to the vehicle, and sped away from the scene. But what sent chills through investigators was what happened next. Only seconds after leaving, the vehicle suddenly turned around, It drove back past the scene one more time before disappearing completely. To many people, that did not feel like the behavior of someone panicking after committing murder. It felt more like someone returning to check whether the job had been finished. As if the killer wanted to make sure Liz was truly dead before leaving for good. Neighbors heard the gunshots and immediately called for help. Liz was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. But the following morning, she was pronounced dead. The news devastated her family and friends. No one could understand what had happened. No one could understand why anyone would want Liz dead. And the deeper investigators looked into the case, the stranger it became. Because according to those closest to her, Liz had virtually no enemies, no drama, no major conflict, no obvious motive. That led many people to believe this was not random violence. It looked far more like a targeted attack. A planned ambush carried out by someone who knew exactly where Liz would be, exactly when she would be there, and exactly when she would be alone. Investigators quickly gathered footage from ring cameras and security systems throughout the neighborhood. They had almost the entire sequence of the murder. They had footage of the vehicle, footage of the suspect stepping out, footage of the approach, footage of the shooting itself, and even footage of the vehicle returning after fleeing. They identified the suspect's vehicle as a 2013 or newer Nissan Frontier Pro 4X crew cab. But despite having that much evidence, no one has ever been arrested. No one has ever been charged. No official suspect has ever been publicly named. And that is what makes this case so terrifying. Even though cameras captured nearly the entire murder, the killer still vanished as if they never existed. To this day, years later, the biggest question remains unanswered. Who wanted Elizabeth Barraza dead badly enough to plan her execution right outside her own home? And until that question is answered, the murder of Elizabeth Barraza remains one of the most haunting, unsolved surveillance murders ever committed in Texas. If Elizabeth's case proved that a killer can ambush someone in broad daylight right outside their own home, then this final case proves that sometimes the most dangerous place can be the one that should feel the safest. Because this time, the victim disappeared inside her own home and never walked back out. A woman walked into her bedroom at 7:53 p.m., and camera footage showed she never came back out. Her husband later told police that she left after an argument. But when investigators reviewed the security footage, they discovered something terrifying. His story was a complete lie because Cecilia never left the house that night. Cecilia Huerta Gallegos was a mother of 4 living in San Antonio, Texas. To those who knew her, Cecilia was the kind of person who always put her family first. A woman devoted to her children, hardworking, and described as someone who constantly tried to keep life stable for the people she loved. But behind the image of what appeared to be a normal family was a marriage many later described as increasingly toxic. According to family and friends, her husband, Reyes Huerta Gallegos, had become more and more controlling, obsessive, and intensely jealous. He frequently monitored Cecilia, checked on her at work, and would suddenly show up just to see where she was or who she was talking to. Over time, that behavior allegedly became more extreme. Some relatives even claimed that when Cecilia once tried to leave him, Reyes allegedly pulled a gun on her and threatened her. To many people around her, Cecilia had been living in fear long before the night she vanished. And then, on July 7th, 2019, everything appeared to reach the point of no return. That day, Reyes unexpectedly showed up at Cecilia's workplace, leaving her visibly shaken. Afterwards, Cecilia left work early and told family members that she felt like something bad was going to happen. No one knew exactly what she was afraid of at the time. But looking back after everything that followed, That statement became one of the most haunting details in the entire case. That evening, Cecilia returned home as normal. Camera footage captured her walking into the master bedroom at 7:53 p.m. And that was the last time anyone ever saw her alive. According to the children inside the home, not long after Cecilia entered the room, they heard loud arguing coming from inside, then screaming. But instead of letting anyone check what was happening, Reyes forced all of the children into their rooms and would not allow anyone near the bedroom area. What happened next only made the case even more disturbing. At around 2 a.m., every security camera inside and outside the home suddenly went dark. When the cameras came back online, footage showed Reyes repeatedly moving back and forth between the bedroom and the family's SUV for hours. But that was only the beginning. He then drove away from the house for an extended period of time. And when he returned, Reyes brought back several highly suspicious items: a chainsaw, shovels, large trash bags, and cleaning supplies. That detail alone was enough for investigators to immediately suspect the worst. After all of that, Reyes finally called police and gave his version of events. According to him, Cecilia attacked him during an argument and then left the house on her own. But that story began falling apart almost immediately once investigators reviewed the footage. Because the cameras showed clearly that after Cecilia walked into the bedroom at 7:53, there was absolutely no footage of her ever leaving the house. No camera captured her walking outside. No camera showed her leaving the property. Based on all visual evidence, Cecilia entered that room and then completely vanished. Investigators quickly determined Reyes' statement directly contradicted the evidence. But the deeper they investigated, the more disturbing the case became. They realized the cameras had been shut off during the most critical part of the night. They had footage of Reyes moving suspiciously for hours. They had evidence showing he left and returned with items many believe were used to dispose of a body. And worst of all, Cecilia's body was never found. No one knows exactly what happened inside that bedroom. No one knows exactly what was done with her body after that night. But investigators believed the evidence was strong enough to move forward with charges. After a lengthy investigation, Reyes Huerta Gallegos was arrested and formally charged with murder in 2021 for allegedly intentionally causing Cecilia's death. However, to this day, Cecilia's body has still never been found. And that may be the most terrifying part of the entire story. Because even though police believe they know who is responsible, only one person truly knows what happened in that room that night. And he may be the only person who will ever know the full truth. 3 cases, 3 victims. And in all 3 situations, cameras were present when everything happened. They captured movements, shadows, final moments. But they still could not answer the most important question of all: who was truly behind it. Because sometimes, even when the truth is almost right in front of us, darkness can still be deep enough to hide the person responsible. And perhaps the most frightening part is not that these crimes happened, but that some of the people behind them may still be out there, never having been named. Thank you for listening and watching all the way through. If you made it this far, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another fascinating story. And for now, click here to keep watching the next video.